Good afternoon, Charles. Thank you very much for coming on this episode of the Insurance Brokers Podcast. It's a bit different today because you're not UK based and not an insurance professional, are you?
I am not. I am US based Tennessee. And for those of you familiar with the South here, my accent will live up to everything you imagined.
Amazing. Would you, I know we've had a chat about the amazing things that you do. Would you just give us an overview for the purpose of those listening?
So I have a full-time job as a small business coach. We have a system here in the States, small business development centers. And if you could imagine, I know you want to make this podcast evergreen, but we've been going through this thing called a pandemic, and I've been exceedingly busy trying to coach people through it. Now, I also have my own small business where I create explainer videos, little animated videos, primarily for people in the insurance industry and the financial industry that they can use for marketing, to stand out in the crowd, and to close more clients. Both of those things have been wide open, and life is still pretty good.
That's awesome. And actually videos is something that quite a few of my clients are now starting to think about putting together and stuff like that. Talk me through what kind of videos you think, I know we're jumping straight in, but what kind of videos you think work well for financial services, insurance industries?
So, you know, not to sell what I do, but I think animated videos work really well, primarily because a lot of the insurance brokers I work with are not super comfortable with getting on camera, so to speak. They may do really well in a one-on-one setting like this, or in an interview, or just talking to their clients. However, something about the little red dot on a camera takes them from being a world-renowned speaker to Elmer Fudd instantly, and they struggle with it. And it's not something they produce and it comes out really well. So I'm a big LinkedIn user, and I know a lot of your listeners may be using LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. And as you scroll through, you see tons and tons, especially now more than ever, of these talking head videos where somebody flips on the camera, doesn't have a script, they're not quite ready, and they say, and for the first 30 seconds, they just, hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here real quick. And those are not good.
And they're almost always in a car.
Why? I've still yet to understand that. Is it because they're too embarrassed to do it in front of their house, or they're, where the dog will be looking at them?
No clue.
And they're not really even looking at the camera. They're looking at themselves, which means they're looking either way. Yes, I could go on and on. So those can work well if they are professionally produced. And, it's not just your iPhone with no audio. It's, somebody that's an actual videographer that can get you, but maybe a couple of different angles where they can slide in some text here and some graphics over here and change the angle and make it 90 seconds, 2 minutes. That does help build your know, like, and trust factor. Excuse me. Here in Tennessee, it's called allergy season, and it's rough.
Same here.
That's another reason you may not want to do a talking head video. So the purpose of moving it to an animated video is because they're more fun. People already have their guard up a little bit when they're talking to somebody in the insurance industry because they're afraid you might be trying to sell them something or that you're going to be boring. So it lowers their guard a little bit. It outsources it to someone else that does this all of the time. And anybody that you outsource it to, if they do a good job and you actually use your own video, it'll pay for itself instantaneously. And if it's something you're going to do all of the time, it may be even, we can talk about how to learn how to make your own, but it's something that really captures people's attention, and it's very good for story-based explanations. And I love a story over facts all day long.
So I agree with you completely. And I am not a videographer, but have been dabbling in my own YouTube channel. Boston Tullis just launched a YouTube channel, which is essentially our podcasts have been chopped up into bite-sized chunks around specific questions. So I might bite-size this up as, what's the purpose of a videographer? What's the best way to do a video marketing? Something like that. So I'm dabbling in it, and I've actually just started to learn how to use an online tool for marketing sketch drawings.
What are you using?
Doodly.
Doodly, that's right. That's one of them. That's
Yeah,
top.
it's I did my first one the other morning, and it was a lot of fun creating it, and
Sure.
I've got a lot to learn, but I completely on board with what you're saying. I do it for Boston Tullis and advocate it for my clients, and I've got lots of signposting and
Good.
people within my group that can do that. But this is what comes back at me every time: time and mental space to sit down and develop the content, confidence, and back to time for the editing, posting, and thinking
Right.
through that. I know what I say to that. I'd love to hear what you say to that.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing that you do. I don't want your listeners to think that I'm just telling you this to sell them something. And that's a whole separate topic. And you've probably had a podcast on it, or you should have a podcast on it, on the best ways to use your time, because that's the great equalizer among everybody on planet Earth. We all have the same 24 hours, and how you use it is entirely up to you. But you got to be working on the business instead of in the business. The best thing any insurance broker could probably be doing is not necessarily, the paperwork, the tedious bookkeeping aspect. It needs to be growing the business, and there's a variety of ways to do it, and there's several pros and cons to each, but getting in front of people or staying top of mind to them is good. Behind the scenes editing and some of the writing and some of the posts of nonstop social media, you know, just throwing things out left and right is not a good use of your time. So the reason I always tell folks, and it doesn't have to be to me, but you need video to begin with. About 80% of what is online now, traffic wise, is video. That's not decreasing, that's increasing. That was 60% 10 years ago, 70% just a few years ago, and it's going to increase. It's not going to get replaced anytime soon. So it's a little like saying 20 years ago or 15 years ago, hey, I think you need a website. Well, we're at a point now that's a done deal. You have to have one. Video's kind of getting to that point. You have to have it. So the reason you need to outsource it, there's so many other things you should be doing, but you're on the right track. You're toying with it at least to see what you can and can't do. And I encourage people to do that. There's a ton of other softwares that are out there. I personally use Vyond, Vyond. That's what I create my videos with. It's very robust. It's really cool. I've even got tutorials on exactly how to create your own. So, if you don't want to use me, that's fine. But what I'll always come back to, if you plan on being a high producer, you want to hire people, you want to grow your office, you want to sell your business one day, that's one of the first things you get rid of, so you can focus on, hiring the next producer, on figuring out what the next revenue stream is, on what the next policy is that you should be looking at to get ahead of the curve, not necessarily playing around trying to make cartoon characters do something funny. That's my job.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think there is quite a strong need for business owners, maybe not so, but client facing staff, people in a sales role, people that are building relationships and building their own personal brand, to engage in marketing. Now, I'm not talking about you have to be developing the content, doing the content, editing the content, posting the content. I'm talking about some engagement in who you are marketing to. What is it you want to say? It's no good saying, actually, I've got an insurance broker business and we focus on construction clients. Could you just go and do all my marketing for me, please? That's not, you can't get your personal message, your personal, your business ethos out there when you've just gone, I don't really want to engage with that. Can somebody else just do it? Unless you are really lucky and you get somebody who can almost integrate into your business and go, right, guys, I'm looking at how you're running this, and this is what I'm seeing as your real message to your clients. So how about this? And obviously that comes with time and at a price. And I think you got to pick which way you want to go. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Most, and especially in insurance, people love to hide behind or make the excuse of, well, my client, they don't want to know me, and I'm boring, or They just need insurance and they want to move about their day. It's a little obstacle that they can use an excuse as, so they don't have to integrate themselves fully into the business. But right now, more than ever, people are picking who they do insurance with or who they do anything with based off of, and I've used this term and I'll continue using, a know, like, and trust factor. They have to assume that you're relatable. Not that not that you give great customer service, you have years of experience, or you have these certifications and letters that they don't know anything about. Every bit of your competition is saying the same thing. Is generic and it's boring. Even if you do give great customer service, you don't have to tell them that. They kind of assume that. They won't assume if you don't say, I give great customer service. They'll say, well, Sarah must suck. She didn't say a thing about giving great customer service, so she must not be good at it. It doesn't cross their mind. What is the thing that makes you relatable, that you focus on, why you're different, or how do you help people in very plain spoken language? I tell folks all of the time, figure out what that one line is of who you work with, why you're different, and the results they can get from working with you, and hammer it home. People need to hear from you 7 to 12 times before they even know that you exist. You almost have to be sick of saying the unique and different thing over and over and over before they even know that you exist. But you're 100% right. You've got to get integrated into your own marketing. So when you say outsource it, you're right, but you have to be the one that has the vision. Even if you have to talk to the marketing person to help you gain the vision of why are they going to work with you? Why are you different? I mean, and it can be something as simple as your backstory or the current type of life you live. You and I were both talking about having 2 little girls, a little boy, all about the same age. And, Sarah, you guys take a good look at her. Her hair's going to look like mine before you know it, dealing with kids.
This
But
is a
that's
wig.
something, it is, bless, but it's pretty. Hey, but it's about trying to relate to the customer, and you're going to attract people. Not to make a silly little quote here, but Tony Robbins says we hang out with 2 types of folks: people who we are like, or people that we want to be like. And that's who you're going to attract. And that's what you want to do, because it makes your life a little easier and it makes your customer happier as well.
I did a really interesting exercise. The exercise is interesting, and I've done it with a couple of smaller brokers in the UK. And it was, I think, an eye-opener to everybody around the table. And we sat together and we had a long list of their clients, who their clients were, and we devised it up into what kind of industry, what geographical area are they in, how many employees, how much time do you spend on that client, how many policies do they have with you, and what's your income. And we divided it all up and had a good long look at it. And then we marked just off the top of your head, give me your top 2 favorite clients. And we went round the room. Every time we've done this, gone round the room, why are they your favorite clients? And you really start to pull out from people what makes their perfect avatar. But you say to somebody, go and give me a customer avatar, and they go, what? And rightly so. My head's in 15 different places because I'm running a brokerage. I've got the HR function, I've got the marketing function, I've got the sales function, I've got the management function. Don't give me avatar. But just
and
having that conversation.
Well, and they'll dumb that down too. Well, our customer could be anybody between 20 and 80, male or female, high income, low income. It really could be anybody, but the exercise you're talking about is perfect. You guys need to probably rewind that and make notes of what Sarah just said, because identifying who not even your top producing clients, your favorite clients are. That's going to make you more money in the long run, because you'll be sane. Find out who they are, why they're different, what not just their demographics are, but what's their psychographics. Why do they make the decisions they make? And it's not about money, and it's not about price every time. There's no way for a traditional broker to compete on just money and price, but what are the other things that make them tick? And if you can create that avatar that's really specific, it's a 45-year-old male that lives in this region, and they follow what you guys call football and I would ignorantly call soccer, and they've got 2 kids and they love paddleboarding. That's something that
100%. And what was really interesting with one client that I did this, every single client-facing individual around the table, their top 2 clients were freight forwarders. Why is that not a niche or niche, should I say, that you're really focusing on? Let's go niche. Okay.
Yeah.
Niche. Um, so why is that not something you're focusing on? Let's look and let's develop that avatar and then, and go after and get, and once you've done that with a company, that gives you the basis to go, right, what content do we want? Okay, I want some video content explaining pain point X for
Yes.
target group Y. Charles,
Right.
can you do that for me, please? And that's how this whole marketing thing, outsourcing consultancy works. But I don't see that across the industry as people getting that. I see it as people,
Sure.
oh no, marketing, how much is that going to cost me a month, and can you make it go away? And I
Yeah.
really love this kind of conversation because we're
We're
on the same
finally
page.
we're finally starting to a little bit get past the idea that you can just blindly throw things out for marketing. And for years here in the States, and it's probably no different where you are, that people wanted to hire some high school kid or college intern to just randomly post crap to Facebook and Instagram because, well, that's what everybody's doing. And I'm going to get somebody else to try to get me to the front page of Google somehow, some way. And it doesn't work because you're not in the process. You get clients you don't like. You pay way more for results that you don't want. So going back to the idea of trying to identify that customer, even when I write scripts for these videos, the only work I'll have my clients do is fill out a 6-question form, and from there I write their script. They get to approve it. I send it off to professional voiceover artists. But those 6 questions, they could use it for anything. Is who do you work with very specifically, and what pain point do you fix is the first thing I always ask. And you'd be surprised. I get a lot of people that stop dead in their tracks because they'll say that generic answer. Well, we target anybody, and they want cheap insurance that they don't have to shop around. Yeah, everybody can
Yeah.
and would be that, but specifically, especially if you're into benefits consulting, you may be a business. Well, what kind of business do you target? And then what specifically is their pain point? And then you get to talk about you of who are you, and then why are you different, and what are the specific steps that you take that your competition doesn't. And that's again where people seem to get lost sometimes
They
because
do.
go ahead.
I think you're absolutely right. But I really think the reason that people get lost on that is because it's almost a gut feel, some of it. How do you articulate a gut feel? So, well, I kind of know what my business is about and I know
Right.
how I feel about it, but how do I articulate that to then develop the marketing message around it? And so many times I see people go, so, what's different about you? What's your USP?
Right.
Well, I don't know, but that's a process to find that out. That is sitting and
Sure.
going through your customers and asking these different questions. And once you ask the right questions, you find the right USP. It's like the penny drops and you go, oh my God, yeah, totally. This is what
That's
I
right.
want. This is the direction that I want to go in.
That's 100% correct. And that's why I always take people through that process. So you really want to try to make sure that you've identified your unique thing. And so many times you're right, they'll go back to the things I was making fun. Well, I have great customer service. Well, everybody else says they do too. So that's not a thing. So we'll wipe that out. And
How do
eventually
you,
once you go
sorry, I
ahead,
keep interrupting you. Laura,
that's
can you
fine.
cut out
Means
my
you're
awful
listening.
interruptions, please? I'm excited by this conversation. That's what it is. How
Good
do you
deal.
do your storyboards? Because you have to be a creative type of
Sure.
person to do that. And I've tried many a times and I come up with, how do you do it?
Right. So I've gotten lucky. And I say lucky, I've always been kind of a person without my own niche, so to speak. I've always been too creative or outside the box to stick with what I think is you call the left brain people, the spreadsheet ... And then I've been too nerdy and not creative enough for the artistic folks. So I've kind of been this mushy middle. So that's why it makes it helpful when I can actually work with insurance and financial and other people who can nerd out on some of this stuff. But I mean, it's as simple as saying that little 6-question form. Once I came across it of trying to figure out, who you target, what their point is, who you are, why you're different, and then creating the result. That's it. I've gotten to where I have learned to take that and create a 250 word script. And you guys take notes here, because if you ever decide to make your own video, this is helpful. 250 words is about 90 seconds. 90 seconds is our cutoff point. Anything less than a minute makes it difficult to get your message across. Anything longer than 2.5 minutes better be Oscar nominated worthy to hold our attention, because we literally are like toddlers. You know, as soon as a shiny object crosses our path, we're gone to the next thing. So people, when they see that it's 2.5 minutes, they won't even watch it. They won't commit to it. So 90 seconds is perfect. I'll write that script, send it to my client for review, tweaks, edits, but we've got their, like you've been saying, we've got their customer avatar, their pain point, and the specific thing that makes you different, and then the results. It makes it very simple. So I always follow, when you're talking about storyboard, you familiar, you watch Star Wars, right, Sarah?
My son's obsessed.
Awesome. So if you think about what I call the first Star Wars, it's actually number 4 now. We went back with my son and watched the first 3. Terrible, by the way, but either way, he doesn't know any better because he's 7. We watched him anyways. But thinking about Luke Skywalker has this problem. He wakes up, they've been attacked by the dark side. His life was fine until then, but now he has this problem. So he has to go get training. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, that's where you come in. You're not Luke Skywalker in this story. The customer has to be the center focus. So the storyboard is with the customer as the center focus. You come in as the helpful guide, the one that's going to train them on the force. And then in the end, what does your customer get? Well, they get a policy that's just right for them, that fits their needs, and they can sleep well at night, not have to worry about that. And of course, Luke, blows up the Death Star, and that's not enough. They need to make 5 more movies about it. So in your in your particular case, you can have follow-alongs or sequels in your own video project. So to answer your question, how do I storyboard it? I always think about it that way, and I write the script that way. And once the customer approves it, get a professional voiceover artist to make it. And I don't send my clients storyboard slides. I'll create the video from beginning to end. And I rarely, if ever, once I send it back for review, tweaks, edits, nobody's ever said, I hate this, we don't like it, skip it. They love every bit of it with a few minor tweaks and edits, but it just tells that story in that exact same format. And stories, folks, that can be a whole separate podcast for you. Stories sell better than facts all day long. It's been proven over and over. Carnegie Mellon actually did a case study in 1996. They sent out letters for a university that was trying to raise money, give scholarships to kids. So they sent out one that was all fact-based. For every dollar you give us, so we help this many people. Cool. And they raised some money. Then they sent out one that was story-based only. No facts, no figures. Here's Sarah. Poor Sarah needs to go to college. She's been dealing with her 3 kids at home, and now it's time for her to go get that degree at university, as you guys say. So when they did that, it outsold, or it raised more than the fact-based one, over like 118%. And it's just mind-boggling to think how we just want to spew facts and figures at people because it doesn't relate.
Yeah, I completely agree. I did recently actually did a Mailout split test just for fun.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
I mean, you're talking about the nerd brain. There's mine. So and I did exactly that for fun, because to prove the theory to myself, and it was hugely different on the storyboard, practical examples of this is what your client is. Does this client sound familiar to you?
Right.
Blah 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 blah. This is what you need to be telling them and how.
Right.
Versus come and join us on this webinar, la 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 la. So I completely agree. So here's a question for you, right? Because this is another question that I come up against when having these kind of conversations. How video editing, video development for a marketing tool in this country is expensive. Like every which way, it's expensive. Unless you DIY, it's expensive. What do you think of that? How do you get around that?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, video work in general, and it's not like insurance where you feel like you got a good idea of what an auto policy or a home policy is going to average out. We're still a little bit in the Wild West, so to speak. Prices can be all over the place. I think I've priced mine out to where it's affordable, but it's not this top end crazy thing, and it's not this super cheap, you're not going to be happy with it video. That's what you need to be looking for. the idea is always, what is the return on investment? And that's, again, where you ought to nerd out and be thrilled because you can track that sort of thing, assuming people are. I have found most insurance people don't track it. They try to go with a gut feeling of how that works, and that's a whole separate issue for a separate day. But track where the money is being spent. So I'll point blank tell you, in terms of what my prices, and it'll, they're US prices, so take that with what you will, but it's $9.99 for a single video, or $7.97 per video once they do 3 or more. The way I explain it to a client is, what is the lifetime value of one of your customers if they get a policy or two and actually renew it for 5-10 years, a lifetime? It'll pay for that video over and over. So when you're asking, yeah, but how do I get that initial investment? Well, make some of your own and try it by yourself. Save a few dollars, but try to identify and look for referrals from other insurance brokers that that you get along with, that will give you an honest referral, and find one that's that's comparable. Get good testimonials from them, good referrals from them, somebody that has a portfolio, and spend a couple of more dollars than you're comfortable with the right videographer, and you'll see, if you do it right and you actually use your video, it'll pay for itself very quickly, and you'll be ready to do another one.
Absolutely. Do you, presumably you've got a showcase page of videos you've done and things like that. If you send me the link, I'll make sure it goes in the show notes that attach the podcast. I'd be interested in having a look as well. I might be picking your brain on. So I've done this on Doodly.
Right.
I think it's shit. Could you help me?
We'll undo that. But yeah, I'll send you a portfolio. I'll send you that 6-question form. And a big key to this, and I just said a second ago, is after you make the video, you actually have to use the thing. It's not like 10 or 15 years ago where you created a video and then suddenly you were a viral star because nobody else had one. And I think some of your listeners will probably relate to the idea, well, I made a video once and it didn't do anything. Well, of course it didn't do anything. I mean, you didn't use it. It's like buying a piece of exercise equipment, like going and getting one of these fancy new Peloton bikes, buying it and riding it once and thinking you were supposed to lose 20 pounds. Well, it didn't work for me. Of course it didn't work for you. You didn't use it. And your video is the same way. It's got a wide variety of uses, and you need to reuse it relentlessly.
And how, so one of the things that I do for Boston Tullis, but also for a couple of clients, is chop up and repurpose as much as you can. So YouTube, LinkedIn, embedded in your website, Twitter, everything you can think of. Have you got anything I haven't said? Any other ways that you'd recommend people use video?
Well, I have a couple of basic ways, low-hanging fruit, so to speak, especially for people in the insurance industry. 2 smart but simple ways that, it doesn't have to mean you're a social media guru, but put it on your website. And I have found so many people will have a video and they'll bury it somewhere in these tabs that you can never find it. You should have a good explainer style video on the home page of your website. So when somebody hears about Sarah, they don't necessarily pick up the phone right away. They're hearing about you, but they've also asked around to another friend, family, coworkers about where they should, let's say you're, selling insurance. Well, who should we talk to? Oh, you've got to talk to Sarah. Okay. Well, you've also got to talk to Bob. The first thing anybody does, and this is worldwide universal, is go to their website. They check them out online. And if your website is filled with boring stock images or jargon or great customer service, that it's not memorable. But if you have a giant pretty video right there that once they play 1.5 minutes and they're the star of the video, they'll remember you. So that's a point you've already got over the competition. Then they'll either call or email. As you follow up with them, it'd be great if you had another video to follow up with them on, of kind of what next steps might be, or here's something else to consider, or even if it was just the same video, because that will make them remember you more than the competition. Your opportunity to close that lead is kind of went through the roof. So I tell people, word of mouth referrals, they still work. They'll probably, until I retire from this or my kids retire, will be one of the number one ways that you want to get clients. And it's a proven system. That's what you want. But you've got to do something that will close at a higher rate. Even if you just close a 1 or 2 extra per month, per week, whatever, it'll have a massive change on your revenue. But those 2 simple ways, in addition to every other thing that you were mentioning or could mention, it boggles my mind how people don't do that.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely couldn't agree more. I think this has been really interesting, and it's really fun for me to speak to another part nerd, part creative marketeer, I suppose is the word. I've really enjoyed it.
Marketeer. I feel like you and me need a logo, the 2 marketeers.
Oh, I love it. And if we bring in your 3 kids and my 3 kids, we could. No, let's not do that. Okay.
We can't fit them all in there. I'm
Oh
not
no,
giving any of them a sword either.
oh God, my 5-year-old is Leah, let's not go there.
Sure.
No, I've really enjoyed this. This was fabulous. If you can send me over links, I'll make sure they go in the show notes.
Right.
This will be going live on the 8th of June, I think. So a week or so. I shall let you know when it's live. I'll let you know when the YouTube videos are up. And if anybody's got any questions for Charles, please email me, or I'll have Charles's website in the show notes as well. That was really helpful. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for having me.